Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Josephine. Hello. I'm in the point shop right now. So I'm gonna wait a couple minutes before we start, but I'll give you a second to show you my showroom. Those are all point shoes, obviously, behind me. Hi, how are you? So excited to be here. In this, presentation live, I'm going to be talking about a couple of the Nikolai point shoe models and the differences between them. And I'm also going to talk about point shoes in general because I don't just represent Nikolai. I represent all the different types of point shoes, all different brands. So I'll talk about point shoes just in general. Hey guys, I see all those hearts. I love it. Hi, Olivia. It's so good to see you guys. And this is going to be pretty interactive. So if you want to, you can just go ahead and shoot me questions. I'm going to be talking about the different parts of the point shoe, what my job is as a point shoe fitter, what I'm looking for. And I'll also answer a lot of the questions because point shoes are changing all the time. And it's my job to keep track of what's coming out in the market and everything. Hi, Kenya. How are you? So good to see all of you. Thank you so much for coming in. How's everyone doing? Is everyone doing well? Like going a little crazy here, being alone and being quarantined in. But we got to do it for the good of the world. Okay, so I brought out a couple of different models. So before we get started in talking about the different models of Nikolai, I'm going to also talk about just like the different parts of the point shoes. I so want to be fitting right now. How are you guys? Yes, please ask me questions while we're doing this. I'm going to answer the best way I can. And I'm also going to save this video too. So if you want to come back later and take a look at it, it's going to be up for another 24 hours for you to just watch everything. Hello. I'm going to just wave at everyone. So great to see you. Okay. So how long have I been fitting point shoes? Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I've been fitting since I was 15 years old. I'm 32 now, so about 17 years. I also danced on point, obviously. I don't think that you could really do this job if you've never actually danced on point before. How do you fit point shoes virtually? It's very difficult, actually. I don't love doing that. It's always more accurate when I fit people in person. But I basically just assess your technique and your strength and flexibility, your foot shape, your length, and all of that. And I try to find a shoe that will help you dance the best. Okay, so let's jump right in. It seems like a lot of people are rolling in right now. So just keep those questions coming. I'll just be answering as I go along. So really quickly, let's go over the different parts of the point shoes. I'm going to pretend like you don't know anything about point shoes, even though I'm sure all of you guys are well educated in the point shoe world. Yes, I will explain the difference between Nikolai and Grishko. Okay, yes. Okay, so really quickly, different parts of the point shoe. Basically, point shoes are made out of two parts. The box, which is this part right here. That's Gigi. Hi, Gigi. Gigi is our San Diego fitter. She's also a very good friend of mine. She's an amazing fitter. So if you guys are in San Diego, reach out to Gigi. Okay, so basically it's the box and the shank. The shank is the backbone of the shoe, obviously. And you can have different types of shanks. You can have a full shank that comes all the way up to here. You can have a 3/4 shank that's soft in this portion. You can have a half shank, which is not as common, but there are some point shoes that break right here. And depending on what type of shank it is, there's a little tack, like a little nail that goes into the shank, and it could be tacked up here, here, or here. So that's basically the shank. And depending on how hard or how soft it is, it'll give you either more ability to roll through your feet, or it's going to give you the ability to be supported. Okay, and then the box really quickly, it's made out of the vamp right here. That's the part that covers your toes, the wings that come up the sides of your feet, and then the platform right here that has, that's where you balance. So that's why it's called a platform. So it really just, and the different parts of the vamp or the box is going to determine how well you can roll through, how well supported you are, and depending on what kind of glue the shoe is made out of. I know Grishko, even within the same company, or Nikolai, I should say, within the same company, they have different types of glue that they use. So the different types of glue, it's going to either crumble or soften or mold to your feet differently. Every company has a different type of glue that they use, so a different mixture. And depending on what type of glue it is, it could either be really hard, it could be softer, it can be moldable, things like that. And some people, they really respond to different glues differently. So you just have to kind of figure it out. And it's really hard to determine right away because you kind of have to know yourself really well to kind of figure out what type of glue you really like. And I'll talk about those too. So basically that's the most general way to describe different parts of the pointe shoe, the box and the shank. And every single pointe shoe company has like a different component. Okay, here we go. I'm going to scroll up really quickly to see if I missed any questions. Okay, what's the difference between Nikolai and Grishko? So Nikolai is Mr. Grishko's first name, and that's the name that they're going to use for the United States. And that's just for the United States. So if you buy a pair of Grishko in Canada or Russia or Europe or Korea or wherever you are, it's still going to be called Grishko. Nikolai is just for the US market. It's the same company, same factory. They use all the same materials. It's just stamped in a different name. It's Mr. Grishko's first name. Okay, and let's see. Scrolling down. If you're dealing with big toe pain, that just might be the wrong size. So let's talk about different problems. Thank you for bringing that up. Let's see. Back to the ballet bar. That's your, thank you for asking that question. So, if you're in excruciating pain in pointe shoes, that probably means that you're not in the right shoe. It's either the wrong model or the size or the wrong shape. So if you have a big toe pain, let's say, like you mentioned, that might mean that one, it could be too short, like the shoe is too small for you to begin with. Two, the shoe could be too wide, or it could be the wrong shape. Or it could be too hard or too soft. So there's a lot of different solutions for the same problem. So a lot of people think that if you come to me with like a specific problem, they always think that, oh, just because you have the same problem as your friend in class, you should have the same solution, but that's totally wrong. So you could have the same type of foot, same shape, same size and everything, and the same problem as someone else, but I could give you a completely different solution. So that really, really depends on the individual. I can't really give you a blanket solution for that problem. So if you're having pain with your big toe, definitely try change, and you love that model of shoe, then try changing the size and the width and see if that helps you. I would really have to take a look to give you a real answer, but that's one of the reasons why you need to get a professional pointe shoe fitting. What is the best shank for people with weak ankles, harder or softer? Now that really depends on your flexibility. So Cecile Lee just asked, what is the best shank option? That's a good question, but again, that is really determined on the person. Now, let's say you have really flexible ankles, but you have really weak ankles. That probably means that you need something a little bit more supportive so that you're not wobbling all around. So that might just mean that you need to have a harder shoe to give you a little bit more support. And oftentimes, but it also depends on where you are skill-wise. So let's say you have really weak ankles, but you're at the beginning phases of point work and you're mostly at the bar at this point. then I probably will give you a shoe that's a little bit challenging for you to work through so you get stronger faster. So it really depends. But I'm not going to do that if you have like a competition coming up or a show coming up, because it could be dangerous. So I have to kind of gauge what is like important for you. Like, is it strengthening right now, or is it performing? Is it competing? Like, what is your goal, like your immediate goal? And we have to kind of assess like what we need to work on. So if you have weaker ankles, point shoes definitely help you get stronger. So you want to be able to strengthen your feet and be able to strengthen your ankles, but at the same time have a shoe that is supportive enough so that you could be supported, so it's not so dangerous. So I've always like asked my question, or I always ask this question when I get a dancer, what is the most important thing for her right now? Is it stability? Is it safety? Is this dancer, does she have really weak ankles that I'm afraid that if I give her something to work through, then she's not going to get stronger or whatever. So I have to kind of figure out like what the dancer's goals are before, when I'm fitting, and then choose a solution for her. And I always ask questions like, like, do you have a show coming up? Do you have competition? Because that also plays kind of a big part. Okay, let's see. What point shoes do I prefer? Thank you for that question, Regina. I don't really have a point shoe brand or a model that I like over others. I mean, for me, I actually did wear Grishko when I was growing up. I was wearing 2007 because I'm very, very narrow and compressive, and Grishko made shoes that were narrow enough for me. So that was like a big thing. I didn't have a lot of options to begin with, because I'm so narrow that I couldn't wear shoes that were certain brands, because certain brands just didn't offer shoes in my width. So I did actually wear Grishkos growing up. But that's me personally. But when it comes to point shoe fitting, I don't really have a favorite. There's certain brands, obviously, that are well made and that are superior than others, but there isn't like a blanket shoe company that's just like better than others. Like, it all depends on what you need. So again, it's a very individual process, and it's really great to have a point shoe fitter that you stick with for a long time, because it's almost like having your own doctor. Like, they know you better, they understand you, we're going through the same journey together, you have the same goals. So it's always nice to be able to have dancers for a long period of time, because I can see their progress and I can see how strong they're getting, if we're reaching our goals together, things like that. So it's nice to have that on your team. How do you ensure you prevent injuries in your feet, especially the toe joints? Okay. Sorry if I'm going a little bit slower. I'm trying to make sure that I'm answering all these questions. There's no way to actually ensure that you don't get injured. So my biggest thing I can do for you is, if you are more prone to injuries, I'm very prone to injuries. I have weak ankles. I'm slightly hypermobile. People who are a little bit more flexible are slightly more prone to injuries if they don't have the strength to support it. So if I see that, and I see that safety is a big concern for me, that I'm going to fit you according to that. Like, we're going to work on just stability so that you're able to strengthen slowly so that you're safe on point. If you guys follow us on our YouTube channel, there is a video that I did, I think a few weeks ago, with a dancer who has hypermobility disability. So it's called EDS, and she is insanely flexible and really, really scary to fit this dancer. But she had the heart and she really wanted to dance. So we just tried to find a shoe that wasn't going to crumble underneath her feet. And she's strong as well, but she's just so flexible everywhere. So safety was like that was like my number one goal when it came to her. So what we did for her was we just found a shoe that was as stable as possible, something where she was well aligned, so she wasn't skewing one direction or the other, that had a ton of support, but at the same time, she was able to use her shoes and her feet to be able to get even stronger. So, that was what I did for her. So if you want to look at something that will help prevent injuries, then you can go ahead and check that out on our YouTube channel. I think if you just type in like EDS point shoe fitting, then that one's going to come up. But yeah, also, if you guys want to check out what I do in real life, we have a ton of point shoe fitting videos on our YouTube page. You can check out all of the different problems that we run into. If you want to watch a point shoe fitting, how I fit point shoes, then you can watch that on there. Okay, guys, what is the proper way to break in your Nicolay point shoes and soften the shank? Now, this also really depends on where you are in your dancing career. If you are a dancer who is in training that is not getting free point shoes from a ballet company, I don't recommend you like using foreign objects to break your point shoes. So don't slam it on the door. Don't step on your shoes. Don't break the shank. The best way for you is to just use your hands a little bit and then make this a little bit softer. You can use your hands to like kind of squish the box, and then you can kind of bend your shoes a little bit with your hands. But I don't really recommend taking a hammer to your shoes or anything. Now, again, if you want to see that, a lot of professionals do that though, because the reason why they do this is because they want to make the shoe feel like you've danced on it for however many hours. If a professional knows that the point shoe is perfect at, say, like hour number 8, like after 8 hours of dancing, they're going to break the shoe, hammer the shoe the way that so that the shoe feels like it's been danced on. But then you're also killing your shoes really, really fast. So you definitely don't want to do that if you're not getting free point shoes. A lot of these professionals, I think a video just went up today with one of the dancers that I did with Oregon Ballet Theater, and she literally takes a hammer and she hammers her point shoes so that it gets quieter. So if a shoe, as you can tell, point shoes are really hard, so it's a little loud on the stage, and they don't want to be clunking around too much, so they take a hammer to soften it. Of course, if you just wear the point shoes, it's going to break down naturally, and it's going to get quieter and it's going to get softer. So that's what I recommend you do. And if it's a little bit uncomfortable, then you can mold your shoes a little bit. But and mostly the point shoe hacks that we do on our YouTube page, that's for fun. And that's to show other professional dancers who are also getting free shoes, because they're going through like, 2-3 pairs a week. So if you don't want to go through all of those point shoes, do not do that. Just use your hands a little bit. Don't break it too much, because your shoes will die faster. What is the shortest box Nicolay has? I think I would say the Elite. Elite is a really square shoe. I don't have one on me right now, but it's a really short vamp, and it's really square, and then it has a really short box. So if you have short toes and if you want to have, more roll through, then that's something that you might want to consider. But they are really wide, so they're not like other Nicolay point shoes where like it's a lot of Nicolay point shoes that are super popular are tapered like this. And it comes up to a smaller point right here, so it's tapered like that. It's really pretty. Elite is a little bit wider, so make sure that your shoes are narrow enough for you so you're not sliding around in your shoes. Okay, let me scroll down. These are some good questions. I will definitely save the live for you guys. It'll be available for another 24 hours, so you can definitely come back to it and watch it throughout the day. What shoe is the best for slim feet? High five, Slim Feet Club. I am here. So actually, I carry all brands, but I think across the board, Grishko actually does have the narrowest shoe. Their width 1 is extremely, extremely narrow, which was perfect for me because most other point shoes, even their narrowest was not narrow enough for me, and I was sliding around in my shoes. So Grishko, Nicolay does, I keep saying that, Nicolay does have probably the narrowest if you do just like the 1X. So if you look at the back, this is a 4.5, 3X. If you see one with the 1X, the X's are the widths. So the 1X is the narrowest. The shoe smells so good. I love new pointe shoe smell. It's weird, right? It's like sniffing glue. Okay. I wish I could cut that part out. But yeah, so if you have really narrow feet, Grishko is a really good model for you. So go ahead and try those, and make sure that, because it can get really wide too. It can go up to a 5X. So make sure that you have a shoe that you're not sliding around in. And also, if you have really narrow feet, make sure you feel like the shoe's the tightest at the fitting, because the shoe expands, especially this other glue that Grishko uses. Grishko uses a couple different glue. Like the 2007 is like the more traditional harder paste. And then like the newer models, like the Nova and the Allure and Allure and Dream are like the same shoe. These other newer models use a different type of glue, and they are a little bit softer, but they also tend to expand more. So you want to make sure that it's like tighter when you're getting fitted. Okay. What is the width difference between the 3007 and Nova? Good question. They're technically the same. That's what we say, but every model is slightly different. So the last is what the shoe is made on top of. So if you look at the inside, there's like a fake wooden foot that you make the pointe shoe on top of. That's called a last. That's what the inside of the shoe is made out of. So they have this like wooden block basically, and the pointe shoe maker hammers it onto that box. And that last is the same for 3007 and Nova. So technically, all of the widths should be the same. Now, I say should because they're slightly different. And it also depends on what batch you get too, because, you know, these are really, they're all handmade. So they don't have, because they are handmade, even if you get the same shoe, the same model, and the same size and everything, there are slight variations for sure. That's just how the pointe shoe game works, my friends. Does Nicolay have the same models as the Grishko, like the 2007? Yes, they do. So everything that you are going to get in Nicolay is going to be the same as the traditional Grishko coming from Russia, made in their factories. So yes, it'll be the same. What is your favorite brand to fit? I love all brands. I really do. And I'm not just saying that to, you know, like, I love all my children equally. Like, it's not one of those. Like, I actually do like different shoes for different people. I don't think I could fit with just one or two brands. I have to have all of them, all of the options. So I'm grateful for all of the companies that make great shoes. But pointe shoe making is such an art form. It's very difficult to do. And there are some companies that have popped up that try to make pointe shoes, but it's really, really difficult to master. So there's not a lot of brands, like, because it's so hard to do, and it takes, you know, so many people, and it takes such a long time to make, and you almost kill the shoes as fast as it's being made. So it's a really, really difficult thing. So I'm so grateful for all of the companies that do a great job. And whenever there's a new shoe that comes out, like, I'm all for it. I want to try it because there's always another problem that it might solve. Hi, I'm looking for a low vamp, middle crown, slightly tapered, and relatively normal shank, not extra hard. I tried Nova, but the vamp is too high. Okay, let me show you a trick. If you love everything about a pointe shoe, but there's like one little thing that you want to change, like the vamp, for example, you can cut it. You can take, well, of course, you lose the drawstring when you do this, but you can customize your pointe shoes. And if you love everything else, you love the fabric, you love the shank, you love the box, everything, what you can do is just take a pair of scissors, ask your parents to help you with this, and you just cut a couple inches right here. And then it gets shorter. So you can always just play around, because like, I always have those instances where I'm like, oh, I wish I could take, this box and this shank and put them together. Like, and I always have like these, like, whatever. But that's why a lot of people learn to customize their own point shoes, because it's like, you don't want to do, like, change the entire thing just for this one thing, you know? So if you just want to change the vamp, cut it. You can cut it into a little sliver. Try this in your old point shoes first, because don't take a brand new point shoes and start experimenting around. Your parents will not be happy with me, because you can ruin your shoes. So definitely try that first. And then, any special solutions for dancers with flat feet? No arch at all. Kenya, it's actually much less about how flexible your feet are and a little bit more about how flexible your ankles are. So I can have dancers that have completely flat feet and they get over their point shoes just fine. It has less to do with your foot, because think about this, right? If your foot is inside the shoe and let's say it doesn't bend at all, but if your ankle bends, right, you're still able to get over on your point shoes like this. Right? So it's more to do with your ankle flexibility than your feet. So even if you have flat feet, and you know what, I have actually, there is some good to this too. If you have flexible ankles, but you have flatter feet, you actually make your point shoes last longer because you're not bending your shoes like crazy. Now the opposite could be a problem. Like if you have really flexible feet, but no ankle flexibility, that's more of a problem than flat feet, because you're bending your shoe, but you're still not getting over your box. So you're actually breaking your shoes fast, but you're not able to just kind of, get over your box. So it's like, that's way more of a problem than having flat feet. So if you have flat feet, no problems. We do offer virtual fittings as well. So if you're having issues, it's better for us to see. It's not perfect, but it is much better than just trying to guess your size and order shoes online. So if you have any problems with your point shoes specifically, you can always reach out to us and then we can help you with that in a virtual fitting. Virtual fittings is more about like assessing your technique. So we're trying to look at like your foot shape, of course, and then your length and your width and everything. But beyond that, we're also looking at your ankle flexibility and your strength and all of those things. So it's nice to be able to see you guys virtually, so I can see some of your technique. I mean, the best is if I can watch you in class and do a point shoe fitting in person, but we can't do that right now because we're quarantined. I'm quarantined in with all my point shoes right here. I'm actually quite happy. Like, I have all my point shoes, I have all my books, but I do miss point shoe fitting a lot. So we will take the next best thing, which is virtual fittings. What kind of point shoes is better for beginner dancers? I get this question all the time, and it really, really depends on the individual dancer. So there's really no such thing as like a beginner point shoe or like a professional point shoe. There are shoes that a lot of professionals will wear and a lot of beginners will wear as well, but like it really depends on the dancer. Like, and there's so many different factors. I can't even just be like, oh, she's either flexible or she's not. It's also like, how tall are you? How much do you weigh? Like, what's your technique? How long have you been dancing? Or how long your toes are? How wide your metatarsals are? How low your crown is? There's so many different factors that like, there's not really one thing that I will say. I will say this thing though, when I'm getting a dancer getting fitted for the very first time, I am looking more for a dancer who is planning on being at the bar longer. So if you're at the bar and you're not doing a lot of things on center, I'm going to gear it more towards strengthening. So I want you to get as strong as fast as you can, so that when we move to the center, you're well aligned and you're strong enough, and your feet and your ankles are strong enough so that you can be supported in center. So that's something that I keep in mind mostly for dancers that are getting fitted for the first time. So that's really the only thing that I can say about point shoes for beginners. Like, there's not one brand or model that's going to be like across the board great for beginners. How do you know when your shoes are too wide? If you're sliding around in your shoes. If your shoes are too wide, you kind of like slide around, you can get blisters, so that's not good. Also, you can sink in your pointe shoes because you're sliding down into the shoe. It could also be very painful. Like if something really hurts, then that usually means that it's the wrong size or shape. So it could be really painful. So make sure that it's not too wide. Also, when the shoe's too wide, sometimes it feels like it's too short, which is kind of weird. But like a lot of shoes, that was the problem with mine. It was that like, you know, the shoe always felt like it was too short, but really it was just because it was too wide. So that's another indicator. A lot of different things, but you have to ask the right questions. How do I clean your pointe shoes? You can't. I know the satin is really, really pretty and it gets ruined very easily, but if you try, I mean, I guess you can try to like dust it off, but like pretty much when the shoe gets dirty, it's just dirty. If you have a show that you have coming up and you want to make sure that the shoe is pretty for the stage, you can also tape your pointe shoes while you're breaking them in so that you can keep it clean. But once it gets dirty, it's really difficult to clean it. You can also pancake it and it makes it look less dirty. But yeah, pointe shoes get dirty really fast. And it's like, again, it's made out of glue and paste and paper basically. So it like almost absorb all of the nastiness. It like absorbs all of your sweat and your all of that stuff that happens in a ballet class. So it definitely does not smell great after a while. So yeah, you can't clean it. Moisture will ruin pointe shoes, so don't do that. But yeah, just pancake it or tape it if you know that you have a show coming up. My shoes die way too quickly, even with hard shanks. Any tip on that? You must have very pretty feet, my dear. If your pointe shoes die really fast, there's a couple things you can do. One, you can glue your shoes. There's this thing called jet glue. You can use jet glue or hot stuff or shellac. There's all these hardening agents that you can use to make your shoes last longer. So one, you can do that at the beginning. So once your shoe breaks and you try to jet glue, it doesn't really do much. So you want to, if you know that your shoes die way too quickly, glue your shoes first. And also, like I just mentioned, your pointe shoes die when there's any type of moisture. That means sweat. That means if you live in Florida and if it's like humid outside, your shoes die faster. So all these things are definitely played into factors. So once your shoes get wet from your sweat, it takes about 36 hours to dry. And if you try to dance in a shoe that's already a little bit like wet, then it will break down faster. So rotating your pointe shoes is going to be good for you. So have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday shoe and a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday shoe. So you're rotating between the shoes, so it lets your shoes kind of rest and dry out completely before you put your shoes on again. So you can rotate. And then the third thing is you can, so keep it dry. So I have some dancers that will, you know, those like nail salon like fans, those are like little nail salon fans. You can like put your shoes, face it away from your family so they don't die of the smell. But then you can face it so that it dries out a little bit and it'll dry faster. So, and always keep your pointe shoes outside your dance bag. I know you have a lot of stuff in there. If you throw your pointe shoes in there, it kind of crumbles underneath all of that weight. So put it in a mesh bag and hang it outside your dance bag so that it has its own little section to dry out. Okay, do I fit Grishko preparatory shoes? Alice or Exam Alice Nova. So I'll be honest with you, I've never fitted the Alice, but I have the Nova here. Nova is very similar to the 2007, but like we mentioned before, the glue is very different. So the glue is a little bit softer. It's a little bit quieter, and the platform in the platform right here is slightly wider than the 2007. So I quite like it, but there's still some people that prefer the 2007. It's just depends on the dancer. Nicolay have the same models as Grishko? Yes, they do. It's just a different name. Just think of it as like a different sticker. But if you go to like a different place in the world, it'll still be called Grishko. So Nicolay is just Mr. Grishko's first name. Same thing. Hi, I'm a point shoe fitter in a small town. How do you deal with teachers who only want their dancers in one specific shoe? Be very good friends with them. We definitely go through a lot of that as well. But if you earn the trust of the teacher, after a while, they just let you fit whatever you believe. So you have to really gain the trust of the teacher, because after a while, if they say like, okay, I've watched you fit before, like I trust your judgment, they don't even check their shoes anymore. So you really have to earn their trust, and that takes a long time. I mean, like even me, like if I go to like a new town, the teachers don't know me, they're not going to automatically, assume that I know. So you just have to get to know all your teachers. If they love you, trust you, if they know that you are doing what is right for the dancer, then they'll let you do whatever you want. How long should point shoes last? Anywhere from 10, it really, really, really depends, but 10 to, I would say like 15 hours. That's like the standard, 10 to 15 hours. But also there's some schools where you're on point maybe like 30 minutes a week and you're not breaking your shoes that fast. And that has a lot to do with a lot of different dancers too. I have some schools that dancers average about once a month. I have some schools that many dancers will go through like 2 or 3 pairs a month. I have some schools that dancers will go through a pair of point shoes in 6 months. That's kind of rare, but that happens sometimes too. It just depends on the school. Generally, if there's a company that is attached to the school, they tend to go through shoes a little bit faster because they're doing more point work and they're doing more rigorous work. So I'd say the average is around like once a month or so. Tell us about the 3007 Nicolay. Okay, so I like the Nicolay a lot. It's very, very similar to 2007. So 2007 has been around the longest, I would say. So this is the 2007. The 3007 is very similar, but it is a slight adjustment. So the glue, like we talked about, is a little bit more malleable, I would say, than the 2007. The shape is very similar. Also, the fabric on the 3007 is it's cut a little bit lower. So the 2007, it has quite a bit of fabric. And a lot of dancers, when they're customizing their point shoes, they ask for a lower cut, which means like they ask the fabric to be a little bit lower. And the point of that is to show off the feet a little bit more than the shoe. So you don't want a shoe that like eats up your whole foot, even though it does feel a little bit more comfortable when it's like a whole hug. So it's cut down a little bit lower. The platform is slightly wider, so it's a little bit easier to balance, but the last on the inside, like I mentioned before, is the same. So it fits the same way. It fits the same way on the inside. It's just a little bit easier to balance. It's cut a little bit lower. It's slightly padded right here, so it's a little bit quieter too. So this is where they pad it a little bit. So when you land your jumps, it's not such like it's not such a clunk. Sorry, that was really loud. But it's a little bit padded, so you won't notice as much. Let's see. What point shoes are the best for dancers with not flexible flat feet? So I talked a little bit about flat feet a little bit earlier, so you can go back to that. It's more about your ankle flexibility. But if flexibility is an issue for you, definitely be patient, because what I see a lot of dancers do is that because it's such a frustrating thing, because it's more to do with your natural body structure than anything. So dancers will crank their foot and just crack it out, like they try to like overstretch. But what happens then is that you're actually making your ankles weaker because you're overstretching a lot of the tendons and the ligaments on top of your ankle. So you can have a lot of issues later on. That's an overuse injury. So you definitely don't want to stretch your ankles too much. I know it's frustrating and I know you want it to be fixed right away, but you have to be patient, because to actually change the range of motion in your ankles, it takes a very long time. So you have to strengthen and stretch at the same time. So make sure that your feet are strong enough all of those intrinsic muscles in the bottom of your foot, you want to make sure that those are all strong enough so that it can support the flexibility that you're trying to make. So definitely be patient with yourself. I know it's frustrating, but it takes a long time. Point shoes, if it's properly worked in, it will make you more strong and flexible. How do you get certified as a point shoe fitter? We have our internal certification program for the point shop specifically. I know that some brands will have that as well, but a lot of it is experience. There's not a lot of official material that's out there, which is exactly why I created the YouTube channel. My mom is a point shoe fitter, so I'm a second generation point shoe fitter. I started fitting point shoes when I was 15. My mom was also a dancer. So a lot of it is experience and what we see. I fit about, not right now, but I fit about, 20 dancers a day. When I'm on the road, I'll do about 20 dancers a day. So it's just a lot of it is experience. How many different types of point shoes do you see? What are the shoes that are working for certain problems? Things like that we have to kind of like figure out for ourselves. We certify our fitters within the point shop. So everyone who is from the point shop is a former dancer, dances on point. I'm actually the only one currently in the point shop that doesn't dance at this moment, but we've all had dance experience. Most of them are still dancing right now. So we definitely want to make sure everyone has that experience. And we all chat, like we're super nerdy about point shoes and point shoe fittings. So we talk about different problems that arise with different people, and then how we fixed it, if it fixed, how it's coming back to us, things like that. So a lot of it is just experience. Do I fit Nicolay demi-point? In the States, this is like a weird thing, but in Europe, a demi-point shoes is a big thing. Like most, I would say companies will want their dancers to start in demi-point shoes and then go into point shoes. But in the United States, it's like not a really big thing. There's only some RDA schools that I fit demi-point shoes for, but I personally think that is such a good idea. I also did a demi-point shoe YouTube video as well, so if you want to check that out and why I am like pro demi-point, it does make your feet much stronger, because demi-point shoes, for those of you who don't know what that is just a shankless point shoe. It's also called soft blocks in different countries, and the box is a little bit softer as well, but the box is more intact, and then it's shankless. So what that does is that it allows the dancer to kind of strengthen your feet because you're able to articulate. I even recommend this for dancers who are already on point, who are experienced dancers, because if you're working through demi-point shoes, it makes you stronger. So even doing tendus, there's a little bit more resistance than like the softer, stretchy canvas ballet slippers that you have. So it forces you to get stronger. And also, if you're rolling up and down in a shankless point shoe, then you're really articulating through your feet, and you're using all of the muscles throughout your legs and your glutes and your abs and all of those things. So I am pro demi-point, pre-point, soft blocks, whatever you want to call it. If you have a chance to do it, definitely do that. Can you show the Allure? Yes. Let's see, where do I have the Allure? Okay. I love these shoes. They're also called Dream Point in different countries. Again, it's made on the 2007 last, the same block that's made for the 2007. One of the features that I really like about the Allure is that it is very pre-arched. I didn't manipulate these at all. And you can see kind of there's like a sharp point that goes straight in. It's almost like a 7. And the reason why I like this is because it gives the dancer somewhere to sit on. We call this a shelf. So at the point shop, we this little part right here, it gives you a place for your heel to sit on top of. So it kind of distributes the weight back into the heel a little bit. And also, it's a little bit easier for dancers to get over on their point shoes. So if you're in like a Nova or 2007, if you're having issues getting on top of your point shoes, this is a good way to get on top without really compromising the the shank. So sometimes you have to go to a softer shank in order for you to get over on your pointe shoes, but you kill your shoes faster. If it's pre-arched like this, then you're able to get over on top of your box without really having to shorten the lifespan of the shoe. So I really like that. It's also really soft in here. This sock liner here, it's like nice and cushy and comfortable. And the heel, it's made out of this like anti-slip material. In the traditional shoes, it's a different heel, so it slips off a little bit more. So I really like that feature too. What if you often twist in several pointe shoe models? Okay, so for those of you who don't know what twisting is, twisting your pointe shoes means like it doesn't stay flat inside your shoe. It kind of twists off your heel. And the reason why that happens is because your feet are not symmetrical, but pointe shoes are. Their pointe shoes don't have a left or a right, right? So they're made completely straight. So if your feet are really asymmetrical, you have like really long toes and then they're all different lengths and everything, then it doesn't often like sit straight inside the shoe. It like kind of skews. So the shank kind of twists off. Now, there's a lot of different ways to fix it. Certain brands and models may twist less on you, but some people have feet that twist in almost everything. And I've seen this weird thing where like they just twist in everything and then one day just fixes itself. And I don't know what they did or what, but they like somehow learned to like adjust their ankles differently so that they stop twisting. So that problem might just go away, and sometimes it doesn't. I still have some professional dancers that twist in their pointe shoes, so sometimes it just lives with you. So there are models and brands that will twist less on each feet. So try different widths, try different models, try different brands, like just make sure that, you know, you dance in it. And also some dancers will start out fine where it doesn't twist and then throughout the life of the shoe, it'll start twisting, and then vice versa for other people. So try sewing your shoes a little bit differently. Some dancers will do what's called a Frankenstein, and then they'll sew the shoe fabric down. And sometimes when you sew on one side, like the inside of the pointe shoe, it actually pulls the shoe to a different direction, so it twists a little bit less too. So you can try that as well. So sewing different things, trying different models, trying different widths and sizes, all of those things will help you. Can people with curled toes go on pointe, like permanently? I'm not really quite sure what that means, but curling your toes is actually a problem. So, oh man, I wish I had a TheraBand to show you. Definitely, if you're curling your toes, you're actually gripping your ankles like this. That's not what we want to do. So dancers that naturally curl their pointe shoes, you want to make sure that you're working out your toes so they're staying straight and flat inside your pointe shoes. So when you're going up on pointe, you don't want to crumple down. So one, make sure that your shoes are properly fitted so you're not like collapsing inside your pointe shoes, but also do those exercises, because like I can only do half of the job. So half of it's my job. I always say half of it's your job. I can give you the best fitting pointe shoes, but you can still collapse inside your pointe shoes if you're not strong enough. So you want to make sure that you're working at your toes. Put a towel down, make sure that you're working your toes, scrunch them up, and then try flatten them back up. You can use your TheraBand, and then you can use your TheraBand to kind of resist. Make sure you're taking conditioning classes so that your feet are getting stronger and your toes are getting stronger too. Don't leave those out. I see that a lot with dancers with longer toes because it's kind of harder to keep your toes flat. Like it's like having really long limbs. It's really hard to like build muscle just because like it's so long. It's like the same thing with toes. If you have really long toes, I see a lot of them like kind of like collapsing. So you want to make sure that you're strong in your toes. What is the difference between Nicolay and Grishko? We talked about this a little bit with one girl here too. Yeah. I think I missed a lot of these questions. Oh yeah, the smell. I love new pointe shoe smell. That's so weird, right? I'm just like walking around smelling all my pointe shoes, but different glues smell different too. I know, it's so weird. Only a pointe shoe fitter would have this weird fetish. Let's see. My feet are so flat. What point shoes? We talked about flat feet already. Work more on your ankle flexibility to get over your point shoes. Sorry, I'm just looking through all of the questions. I think I missed a lot of them. What do you do when the outside of your shoe is baggy? Okay, if your shoes are fitted perfectly, and if you still notice that the fabric is really, really baggy, first, make sure that it's the right fit, because if it's really baggy, there might be a fit issue. But if you know that this is the correct size and width and it's still baggy, you can one, find a shoe with a lower, less fabric, or two, you can sew it down. So you can actually fold your fabric down like this and then sew it down. It's called Frankensteining. A lot of people will do that to have that like nice sleek look on stage. So you can get rid of the extra bagginess like that. But make sure that your shoes are properly fitted first, because more or less that's usually the issue, not because there's extra fabric. We have just about 10 more minutes, so I'm going to try to answer these as much as possible. Let's see. Do I carry Burpetto? Yes, we do. How can I get certified point shoe fitting? You can work for the point shop. We'll certify you. The little nail on my right point shoe keeps leaving the shoe. It doesn't matter if I take it off. A lot of people will just take off the tack. So sometimes when you have a point shoe, you'll see that the nail is like sticking out or something. That could be really uncomfortable. You can take it out. It'll make it a little bit softer up top if you take out the tack. But you can take it out. A lot of people do that. So don't worry about ruining your shoes or anything. So if your shank is twisting, we talked about this a little bit more. A lot of it can be fixed with the different shape of the box or different width. So try a different width. Sometimes, I know most of the time, if you go wider, then your feet sit straighter, so it won't twist as much. But sometimes I have seen dancers, if you just get a narrower shoe, it actually keeps your foot in place. So it depends on why you're twisting. So it's mostly foot shape more than anything, but you just have to find the right shoe shape so that your foot is as straight as possible. What is good for narrow but inflexible feet? Again, it depends on how flexible your ankles are, but if you're really narrow, width one is great. Grishko has a lot of shoes that offer really narrow models, so that's fantastic. If you need a shoe, let's say that you have strong ankles, but you're not as flexible, then you can wear a softer shoe or a 3/4 shank or a pre-arched shoe like this, and it'll help you get over your point shoes. Sometimes if it's the strength issue where you're not strong enough, and that's why you're not getting over, then you need a little bit more support, which means like more support on the wings. Maybe the vamp needs to be a little bit shorter. Maybe the shank needs to be harder. So it really depends on each individual dancer. Let's see, I have used 2007 Pro Flex shoes and the sole breaks super fast. What should I change to prevent this? You can try a harder shoe. You can. And sometimes it's, if your shoes die really quickly, it could be the shank, where you can get a harder shoe. But I have seen dancers that will make a softer shoe last longer, because a harder shoe usually has more glue and it's brittle. So if you snap the shoe, it could die faster. So it's a myth that all hard shoes last a long time. That's not true. It's like sometimes if it's softer because it's molding to your foot a little bit better, it can last a little bit longer. So experiment with that. Pro Flex is quite a soft shoe, so I'm guessing that you need to just try a harder shank. Pro Flex only comes with one shank, so try a different model. You can just try the regular shoe, try a Nova, and then the sole might last a little bit longer. Sole is also called the shank for point shoes. How would I understand what shank I need if they're my first point shoes? It's it has a lot to do with your strength and flexibility. So some dancers need to work on strength, some dancers need to work on flexibility. More often than not, you have to work on both. But if you have really strong feet, but not really flexible feet, usually I try to get you something that you can stretch your ankles a little bit more. A softer shoe would probably work better for you, but that a lot of dancers don't actually know. Like, we don't know what we need to work on. We don't know because like you only have yourself to compare with, and you don't really have. So a fitter who has seen a lot of different feet, they'll be able to help you guide you through the shank strengths. And I could offer 2 different shank strengths if you are the type of dancer that are going through shoes a little bit faster, and then you rotate your shoes. Sometimes I'll give you 2 different shanks. So like one softer shank, and I'll say, hey, this is your shoe that you're going to get stronger in. Wear this at the bar, wear this during rehearsal, whatever. If you're and then here's a harder shoe, or your workhorse shoe, I always say, that will make your shoe last a little bit longer. So if you're doing pas de deux, if you're breaking your shoe during classical pieces, you can do that too. So different shank strengths for different things is perfectly fine. Even if you're doing different variations, if you're doing like a contemporary piece where you're just, showing off your feet and you can basically dance in dead shoes, then softer shoes are fine. And if you're doing pas, you're just sitting there and the guy's just like, you're just on your toes for like forever, then you're breaking your shoes faster. So something that's a little bit more supportive and sturdy. So depends on what you're doing, depending on what you're working on, and depending on your feet and your ankles. Again, lots of different factors here. What do I do if I break the box and not the shank? So everyone's different. So you can either break the box first or the shank first. So it depends. Like, that's totally normal that you break one part faster than the other. Now, it's also really great if you know that you break one part over the other, because you can reinforce it with glue. So if you break your box first and you know that, you can jet glue your shoe or hot stuff your shoes or shellac the box right here, and then reinforce it before you even start wearing it, so that your box and your shank kind of break down around the same time. So do we carry small sizes? Yes. Can I show you? I don't know if I have a shoe, but yeah, I literally have shoes that are like this big, like size 1, size children 13. So yeah, don't worry about the size. We have a shoe for you. Would you ever consider having a point shoe fitter meetup? Sure. That's like our text thread. Oh man, I have about like 3 minutes. I have all these questions. Oh my goodness. I didn't even get through half of these questions, you guys. I'm so sorry, but we're running out of time. You can always slide into our DM. So you can message us at the Pointe Shop. If you have any questions, you can also email us at info@thepointeshop.com. We have virtual fittings if you're having a lot of issues. My personal Instagram also is Josephine LEE. So you can message me there as well. But all of our fitters at the Pointe Shop are phenomenal. I ask questions to them all the time. So because I'm getting ready to sign off here, thank you so much for Grishko or Grishko World and Nikolai World for having me. If you guys have any other point shoe questions, I am here for you guys. So slide into my DM, chat with me, talk to me. I'm such a point shoe nerd. This is like my whole world. So thank you so much for logging in today. I had so much fun. I always have fun talking about point shoes. I can do this all day long. And please don't be in pain. If you're in pain, let me know. And I love all of you guys. Thank you again, and I will see you guys later.